Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do a book review of Superman written by Terry Pratchett. This was first published in 1991. This is the 11th Discworld novel and it is the second novel in the Death character subseries. So first of all, what is the Discworld? It is, as it actually sounds like, it is a disc-shaped world, a flat world, which by itself rests on the back of 4 very large elephants, which stand on the back of a very large world turtle, which swims through space the same as though it was water. Now, this is a very strange and weird and wonderful world, which creates some very interesting situations, and one of the situations as such that it creates is because this world exists. It exists because of the weakness of reality. Magic exists in the very air, essentially. And on the Discworld, if enough people believe strongly enough in something, that thing will literally be created and it will exist. So, the novel starts off in the study of death, which, because of everybody's belief that death does indeed exist, is the stereotypical 7-foot skeleton wearing a black robe with a cowl and carrying a very large scythe. And he is, as you might expect, very good at his job of ushering souls from the living world into whatever world they think exists on the other side. He's not judgmental about that. You can believe what you want. It's merely his job to get you from living to the next location. And he's in his office doing some paperwork, obviously. And he gets a visitor, or a set of visitors actually, in the shape of the auditors of reality. They are very strange and sort of mysterious beings. They are not individuals, they are sort of collective consciousness of sorts. They only exist because they never think of themselves as themselves. They are just a plural essence. They appear in to Death and tell him essentially that he's been forcibly retired, which is a bit of a shock to Death because he was doing a fairly good job, so he thought, and now he's been told that he has to have early retirement. Now this is a bit of a strange situation when you have Death retiring. It's made even stranger when he's not merely been retired, but he gets given a lifetime of his own. In other words, he actually gets given life. If he has life, that means at some point Death, or at least the soon to be retired Death, will die. So you have a dying Death. Sounds strange, and it is, but it works extremely well. And there will be, of course, a new Death, or a new idea of Death, that will be created soon. But in that interval, Death decides that obviously he leaves his house and goes down to the Discworld itself, because he's always got a fascination of people and the world and the creatures within it. And he wanders across in this unnamed farming country a small sign that says "Help Wanted." He goes to the farmhouse in question, and there he finds the other main character of the novel, Miss Flitworth, a little old lady whose husband died many years before, and she is a member of a sort of local rural community. Everybody thinks that she's the little old sort of strange lady who has loads of money hidden away somewhere, and she frankly doesn't really care what anybody else thinks. She knows who she is and her own personality, and she works out rather well with Death, because Death is trying to just merely live now in a very strange way, and she accepts him for him. Now, also for the record, Death, unless he wants you to, you do not see Death as the 7-foot tall skeleton. you see him as just merely a tall, often sort of manicured man who looks, quite debonair and smart and such. That's a kind of image that is just sort of around the image of death. Unless he wants you to, you won't see him in that sense. And the book starts getting more interesting, however, because death has retired, but the new idea of death hasn't been created yet, there is an excess of life force in the world, which in Ankh-Morpork, which is essentially a very sarcastic version of London, England, which T. Pratchett has really massive fun of playing up to every stereotype imaginable and twisting and turning them in fun ways. There is a very old wizard, because there is a wizard's university there, as you would expect, and wizards know when they're about to die, and indeed he does. So he's having a death party where he will see everybody one last time, then death will come for him and usher him off to where he is supposed to go. However, when that time comes, death doesn't appear because he's been retired, although he doesn't know this, and he is at a bit of a loss, frankly, because he dies but fails to die. So he hangs about for a bit, then gets bored, and then decides, well, I'm not going to hang around for death forever. So he goes back to his body and essentially becomes a zombie, for all intents and purposes, which creates some interesting and amusing situations. And this starts spiraling outwards, however, when the excess of life force on the disc and on Ankh-Morpork starts to escalate, it starts building up. More life force creates other things, I'm not going to talk about what they are. And this combined with what's happening where death is on the farmland area, and he is trying to be a normal member of the community, but he's never truly going to fit in because people feel uncomfortable around him, but then they're not sure why. Obviously, because as I said, they don't see death as death. They see him as this, sort of strange, thin guy. This, combined with the Ankh-Morpork situation, creates a really interesting contrast, and it complements each other really quite well, because you've got the rural environment of where death is and the urban environment of where the wizards are. And let's say the plot spirals outward from there. I'm not going to talk about more because of plot spoilers, of course. So one of the major parts of this book is the characters, specifically of the main two, and that is Death himself and Miss Flitworth, his new employer, essentially. They are a brilliant duo, because you've got Death, who apparently knows everything, but ultimately you have to keep in mind that Death is an observer of life up until this moment. He's never been alive. He observes it and its end all the time, of course, when he's doing his job, but he doesn't live a life. So, and now he is living a life. Miss Flitworth is an old lady who has seen the death of her own husband, and she's at the end of her life, and this contrast between two of them that are at the end of their lives as such, but death's obviously only new to life in general, the concept of it. Miss Flitworth is trying to make use of what time she has left. Is an interesting combination, and also you have to combine this with the wizards back in Ankh-Morpork, because although they don't directly interact too much with Death and Miss Flitworth, they do play an important role, and they do play an important role at contrasting with the sort of countryside characters, because they are urban, as I've said, and they're a bit more fast paced, a bit more harsher in their views. The countryside people are, on the surface, more easygoing and more open-minded, and this creates some interesting situations. And Death is frankly a phenomenal character, which I will do a separate video of in the future, almost certainly, because it's a very important character overall. But overall, the characters are fantastic. The world itself and the world building is frankly brilliant as always with T. Pratchett. It's an unusual situation in this book though, where you actually have this unnamed farming country. You have no idea where it might be. There's a few vague allusions to roughly where on the Discord it is, and if you've read previous books, you may be able to vaguely place it geographically, slightly, but it's not very precise. And I like the fact that you're not told where it is. It's just a unnamed farming country with golden fields of corn and little villages and such. And it's just a nice environment to contrast with the big city, which is obviously essentially London. And one of the main themes or ideas in this book is, as you would guess, the idea of life, and more importantly about death, and the importance of living your life the way you want to live it. And don't live your life by what other people think you should live it. If you want to be something in life, be that. Don't just think, well, people expect me to be this image, this character. That's what I'm going to be. That's all I can be. You are, and we all are, more than we seem on the surface. Everybody is more than skin deep. You know, everybody is complicated and complex. Far more complex and complicated than any of us actually are aware ever. You know, there's more going on in our minds than anybody can comprehend, and it's about living life according to what you believe and about your belief in the world and in yourself, and just enjoying life, because you only get one chance at life, depending on your beliefs anyway. So make use of it. You know, you're here once, you have one turn. So, you know, try to make effective use of the time you've got, frankly. And Pratchett talks about this in a phenomenal way. It's really deep and quite moving. In some way, I would say that this is a brilliantly well written novel with amazing world building, great characters, and some phenomenal messages which are really deep and introspective and really make you question, you know, sort of how you think of the world. I mean, I know I did when I read it for the first time when I was fairly young, in fact, and I actually hold this particular book as being heavily responsible for my outlook in life in regards to life, death and such. I mean, it sounds dramatic, frankly, that's what I've just said, but it is actually true. I think it's a fairly significant and major book to me personally. And indeed, this is why Reaper Man, for the record, is actually one of my very favourite Discord novels. I often hear that it's often considered a sort of fairly milder novel or a smaller novel compared to some of them. But to me, this is one of the most important, because this is Pratchett talking about the idea of death and the character of death, which for Pratchett is an extremely important subject, and one that he talks about in a really phenomenal and deeply introspective and emotionally moving manner, which I greatly appreciate. Anyway, with that said, that is actually it for this review. If you've read Reaper Man, or you would like to, or any other Discord novel, then please leave a comment and we can have a discussion. There will be a Goodreads link to this in the description box below, of course. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.